journalist, consultant, scientific researcher, top advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Lord Christopher-Monckton, Monckton of Brenchley, the third Lord of Brenchley, joins us, and am really honored to have him on with us for the next hour. He's in D.C. for one of the huge Tea Party events today, coming up in a few hours. He'll give us the location, the time, the place. Then we're going to chronicle all the new information that dwarfs ClimateGate and the whitewash in England by the government. I mean, just absolutely outrageous. And where the UN and others are going with their push in Mexico City to try to set up this world government. Lord Monckton, great to have you on with us, sir.
Well, it's a real joy to be with you once again, and God bless everyone who's listening. And on tax day, God bless America. You need all the help you can get.
I hear you. Our taxes are getting as high as France almost. Well, first off, tell us about the event today.
Well, the event today, of course, is the culmination of the great Tea Party Express that began in Searchlight, Arizona, which is Harry Reid's seat, as you know, with Sarah-Palin kicking things off. She was in Boston yesterday and was getting huge cheers from the crowd when she said, "I want to tell my left-wing friends this, that conservative women are hotter." Well, I've got one more thing to add to that. Conservative guys are hotter too, especially if they have a British accent. Anyway, it's now made all its way through to Washington, D.C., where the final rally takes place on tax day this evening, East Coast time, between kind of 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. at the Washington Monument, which is, for those of you who haven't been here before, is an enormous needle of marble, the largest freestanding marble structure in the world, and it's right there opposite the White House, where we are told that Barack Hussein Obama will probably be cowering behind the drapes in the Oval Office.
Yes, it's a giant, I guess, ziggurat or obelisk. You can't miss it with its aluminum capstone. Lord Monckton, we're about to go to break, but there's so much happening. I've got all my questions, but what is most important on your battle board as you look at the whole array of our forces growing, the enemy's forces vanquished on many levels, but regrouping like serpents?
Well, of course, they still intend to take democracy and freedom away forever, and President Obama and the administration will do everything they can to make sure that the UN's green global government is cemented into place so that your constitution will no longer matter, and so that freedom, democracy, prosperity will be gone forever. When I went to Bonn recently for the UN conference to plan for the next conference, which, as you rightly mentioned, is in Cancun in Mexico this December, the follow-on from the collapsed Copenhagen conference last December, they were still issuing copies of the September the 15th draft of the Copenhagen Treaty, the draft that didn't make it to Copenhagen, which lays out in 186 pages the program for a world government with powers to suspend and control and set the rules of all formerly free markets, which would, of course, disappear, the powers of enormous taxation, and, you know, you really can't take much more taxes than you've already got here in the United States, and then also powers of intervention in not only the environmental but the economic affairs of all nations directly over the heads of their elected representatives. And, of course, will this world government be elected? Does the word election, democracy, ballot, or vote, or any such word occur anywhere in the 186 pages of this blueprint for the end of democracy worldwide? No, of course it does not.
Lord Monckton, we're going to come right back with a long segment, break down the enemy blueprints that time and time again, by the grace of God and good spies, continue to fall into our hands on a weekly basis, and all the new scandals absolutely proving systematic, organized fraud by the collectivist parasites to push their Green New World Order. Probably the leading crusader with the most accurate information of the last 15-plus years, fighting the Green New World Order, as the UN calls it, in its internal documents. For those who just joined us, Lord Monckton is in Washington today for a huge Tea Party event starting 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. in front of the Washington Monument. You cannot miss it. Sir, flesh this out because, I mean, walk through this world government they're setting up, these incredible documents that continue to get leaked and declassified and stolen by some that are being put out. I mean, really gives us a picture and lets us know there's no longer any denial. This is open global tyranny. And we now have the head of the Gaia movement over in England last week in the London Guardian calling for a global dictatorship, saying we can't have freedom. The people are, quote, too stupid. We must have rationing. I mean, these are open tyrants. Even Hitler and the communists and other despots were not this open, selling tyranny as if it's mother's milk.
That's a wonderful phrase, selling tyranny as if it's mother's milk. I must remember that one. That'll do well in speeches, I think. I think you're quite right. There is an extraordinary failure of will on the part of the peoples of formerly democratic nations like Britain, for instance, which now lives under the dictatorship of the European commissars. And, of course, it's therefore very easy now for people like the leader of the Gaia movement to come out and say, we want dictatorship, because, of course, we've already got dictatorship in Europe. And we've already got cap and tax because, hey, we weren't asked about it. None of our legislators were asked about it. It was imposed by the European dictatorship, and we all had to salute and obey. And we had no say in the matter. Now, the great thing about the United States of America, and I'm speaking here in Washington, D.C., on tax day, is that the United States is different because it has a constitution. And the Constitution, at Article 1, Section 1, says this. It says, all legislative power herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives, full point. Now, that means there is no dictatorship here for as long as the people of the United States are willing to keep themselves free. And that, I think, is the significance of the Tea Party movement, which came from nowhere little over a year ago. The grassroots suddenly decided they were going to stand up and be counted. And I know that President Obama and the other world government wannabes are saying that this is astroturf, that is paid for by fossil fuel industries or other wicked, evil capitalists who want to keep the world free and prosperous. But the fact is, this is a stirring of popular opinion, such as has probably not been seen in the United States since that day in 1773, when your forefathers decided to pour tea into Boston Harbor. Now, I've got a tip for you. Try pouring it into the teapot next time. It tastes better that way. But remember this also. The British tea tax was thousands of times cheaper than Obamacare and millions of times cheaper than what would happen to the United States if any part of the cap and tax regime now being wriggled and struggled through the Senate were actually to be passed.
And Obama is separately saying he's going to have the EPA enforce it regardless. That is open tyranny. And Club of Rome behind eco-fascist purge to criminalize climate skepticism. An article at prisonplanet.com quoting Club of Rome members saying we should all be arrested if we criticize anthropogenic global warming. I mean, they are openly saying arrest us. They've called for your arrest previously, when in truth they're the ones that have been caught committing this fraud and these crimes, and you've called for Al Gore to be arrested.